Joining us now to discuss the news on TikTok is author and filmmaker Kay Rubacek. Kay, great to see you. There are a lot of intriguing angles here, right? You got business, the minds of the youth at stake, foreign adversaries. Some people, though, say TikTok is just like any other social media platform. So why do you think Congress moved in to ban it? And why is it getting this special treatment compared to, X or Facebook or Instagram?
That's such an important factor here in this situation because TikTok has always been, until now, owned by America's adversary, China. And it's been a state secret, the algorithm of TikTok and the way it is operating up until, well, hopefully now. We still don't know exactly how this is going to work out, but it has been used as a propaganda weapon by the Chinese Communist Party. And they've said themselves, President Xi Jinping has said very openly that they use propaganda and they use all the tools at their disposal. And this is one of the tools that they've used for years upon the world and certainly upon America. So it's not a normal social media platform when it comes to something like Facebook or X, where we know who the owners are. They can be called into Congress and questioned, but that's never happened with the Chinese Communist Party.
Great segue, because the structure takes that into consideration. 80% will be owned by the U.S. entities, various investors. 20% will remain with China, yet the data is supposed to be housed in the U.S. So how do you expect that to change TikTok and what effect it might have on its U.S. users?
I think experts are more concerned about the algorithm than the data. There's a lot of people have said really they've got so much of our data already, and the youth are not so much concerned about the data that's being used for tracking and such. It's the algorithm that has been used to and it's not transparent, so no one knows how it works, but they see that it works like a slot machine at the surface. It's highly addictive. Even Pew Research has said that for between 13 and 17-year-olds, it's really provided very harmful behaviors to them. And it's just become so addictive for people that it's not so much the data, it is the algorithm. And we don't know how much of that is going to be controlled here. They say it's going to be retrained, but there's no transparency as yet. So that is a concern that we're going to be watching closely.
Yeah, and to that point, and you've covered this a lot, all social media tools have that sort of addictive component in their design. And I think that gets like gasoline poured on it when you use it on a mobile device versus a desktop device because of that nature you described, that scrolling. But there have been numerous reports of TikTok providing harmful content to users, especially teens. Do you expect that now that will just completely stop, or what is your concern over potentially the content that's getting pumped through that utility?
Well, we're going to have to see what these new owners, whether they are prioritizing profitability over health benefits of their users. And we really hope that they are going to care about the American youth that have been heavily harmed by the Chinese Communist Party's use of TikTok over these past few years. So let's hope that they do retrain the algorithm in a way that really benefits. It is still social media. It is still drawing on, it's creating those dopamine loops that really affect people's brains in often harmful ways, but it is a step forward in that it is not going to be, hopefully it won't be showing as much harmful content as it has been doing in the past. So now there's a bit more accountability that we'll be able to look at that and monitor it more closely and ask questions if there's problems.
I want to come back to that comment you made about dopamine loops, because that in and of itself, we could do a whole section just on that. But could you give an example or two of where you've seen TikTok specifically maybe promote content that other social media apps, maybe those stories also circulated, but maybe not with the same strong distribution?
There's been actually a lot of very thorough reports that have been done, and this is another reason why TikTok has been such a big concern for so many people, and this is a positive step forward. But examples of new users starting new accounts have been shown, as teenagers, have been shown self-harm material, eating disorder material within minutes of opening a new account on TikTok. And that is just so alarming, and I think that's part of what's got President Trump to take this so seriously, and we hope that that's really going to change.
Yeah, and to that point, many people in the U.S. might be surprised to know that the TikTok that is or was owned by China, or they have a period of time to now close the deal. But in China, the Chinese regime doesn't actually allow the U.S. version of TikTok to be used by the youth. So how do the two apps differ, and what other controls does the CCP use on its own youth in using social media? And maybe if you also have a parallel to their use of video games, because it tends to be social media tends to skew a little bit more toward youth female, video games a bit more toward youth male.
It's so interesting when you compare when people realize that TikTok, as we know it, is banned in China, even though it was made by China. They have their own version in China called Douyin, which functions very similarly, but it has a different algorithm. It doesn't bring up the self-harm content. It doesn't bring up the eating disorder content to the youth. And in China, they have strict state control. They turn off their version of TikTok, Douyin, at 10 p.m. every night, and it doesn't come back on until the morning the next day. So that's enforced by the state. Video games have different types of controls because there's different gaming platforms. But either way, it's still the state is trying to maintain strict control and tell youth what they can and can't do. They even have warnings saying you must get off your phone right now. You've been on for more than 40 minutes, which is here. They've been trying to hold us on our phones for hours on end.
It's fascinating to draw the contrast. And I think in New York State and others, kids are now not able to use their phone during the day except for an emergency. But it's very interesting, the different ways of mandating social design. But it seems like one thing is clear: these dopamine loops, there is harm there, and how we as free societies versus controlled societies deal with it is quite illustrative of what's actually happening. Really appreciate all your insights this morning. Kay Rubacek, great to talk to you.
Thank you.